Hi guys, I'm back again. I thought I would do an update video on where I'm kind of at the moment, re mental health. I know a few people watched my last mental health video, especially a few people because of Danielle from Lipstick and Lithium. Hi Danielle. That's if she sees this video, which she might not. But anyway, yeah. So if you're subscribed to my channel, you don't know, I'll be a bit quiet. Well, I was a bit quiet, and then you get like this flood of videos. That would be because I haven't exactly been in a great space. Fairly horrendous space actually for a couple of months really, which is why I've been quite sporadic. I was intending to be, you know, all organised and have set days for doing certain things on YouTube, and it just hasn't happened. Which is one of the problems with post-traumatic stress disorder, is that you'll be going along fine and then you'll just hit a wall, and that's pretty much what I hit. I kind of hit sort of a bit of a turning point at my last therapy session. I have a really good therapist, and I quite often have therapy sessions where all I do is talk about my kids and stuff that's happening in my life, and I don't really talk about myself very much. Well, my last session was not like that. I actually didn't really mention my kids at all because I kind of had hit a complete another hole kind of thing. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, but sometimes people refer to depression and stuff like that as being in a well, where you can kind of see the light but you can't get out. Mine's been a bit more like the Marianas Trench, where even the light is hard to see. And prior to my last counselling session, I actually had an episode where I quite honestly didn't want to be alive anymore. Now that's not to say that I was talking about committing suicide, because I can tell you right now, I would never ever, seriously ever, do that. Not to my kids, not to my partner, not to my mother, not to anybody that I know. Our family has been touched so many times by suicide, and the effects have been ongoing and quite devastating in some cases, that I couldn't do that to my family and to my friends. That said, I didn't want to be alive. And it wasn't about killing myself. It was literally just not wanting to exist, not wanting to be alive anymore, because it hurts so badly sometimes. And it's hard to people tend to react badly when you say I don't want to be alive, because it's like, oh, she's going to go kill herself. No, too damn stubborn for that. I'm not going to kill myself. But it doesn't mean I don't have the thought sometimes that I would just really like the pain, the things that I'm going through in my head, just really like them to stop. Because it's hard to live your life every day with those negative types of thoughts, with not feeling like yourself, like not functioning properly. And this is one of the biggest issues I have, is I guess in some ways I'm mourning the person that I was. I used to be so much more productive than I am now. I used to be able to do so much more. I used to go out so much more often and interact with other people, and now I spend a lot of my time, I mean, now I'm almost a recluse, other than doing YouTube videos, obviously. I don't really leave the house an awful lot. I don't like to go out to places where there are lots of crowds, at least not for long periods of time. I get really agitated, have panic attacks or anxiety attacks. And I mean, I used to go out like down the street window shopping almost every single day for, you know, a couple of hours and be fine. And now I'm lucky if I can last a half an hour before I need to go home, because I can't stand the noise and the people, and I start to get agitated. And I'll see somebody who reminds me of either my father or my abuser, who are two separate people, or I'll see someone that reminds me of my best friend Sophie, who passed away a few years ago, and those things will trigger a response. Smells trigger a certain response. Hearing certain pieces of music or seeing certain images. Like just today, I was looking through something on, I think it was Cracked, which is a great website, and they were looking at basically sort of images that, I think they were like Easter eggs, hidden Easter eggs, but a whole bunch of them were about stuff that's in paintings. And one of the images that I saw as I was scrolling by, I had seen many times when I was younger in a particular book that my abuser had, that it was one of those kind of books where when you flip the pages, you remove bits from the person, or like if it's a woman, you'd be removing pieces of clothing. Like some of them went down to the skeletons, but most of them were more about getting naked, basically. And one of these images was one of the images that were on the site today. And I had an immediate reaction. Like I felt my body tense up. I felt my adrenaline levels rise. I started to feel nauseated and uncomfortable, and the humour that I had been getting from this particular site was, or from this particular article, was immediately compromised all by this one image. And this is out of 10 pages of stuff. There's this one image. And I had this instantaneous reaction to it because it reminded me of that particular time, that particular point. And that is what post-traumatic stress disorder is like. And even though I am a long way removed from my abuse in terms of time, internally it's right there. And it would be nice just to be able to push it aside. I mean, I hear it all the time. You should just put it behind you and move on. It doesn't work like that. I really freaking wish it did, because I could think of nothing better than to not have these kind of reactions all the time. And it got worse for me around about the time that the courts decided not to prosecute my abuser because he's unwell. And it triggered this big kind of justice kind of thing. I have a thing about justice and fairness, and every time I see something that I don't consider to be just or fair, I have immediate reaction to it. I can't help it. Every time I see something about child abuse in any form, I have a reaction to it, and I can't help it. It makes watching television kind of traumatic, especially when it's in the news all the time. Like in Australia, there's a Royal Commission into sex abuse in churches and government institutions and stuff like that. So it's on the media all the time. And the tie over with religion is a bit of an issue for me. In case you didn't know, I'm an atheist. Quite proud to be one, quite frankly. I don't care what anybody says. I don't have a problem with people who are religious. I have a problem with religion. I have a problem with some of the things that are said, like that you can go to church every Sunday and be forgiven, and nothing that you did during the week makes any difference, which is what my abuser used to do. As you can imagine, that bugs the shit out of me. But anyway, we will not go into that discussion. Recently in the media, there's been a lot of talk about child abuse, and also a couple of well-known Australian celebrities have been in front of court for pedophilia and abuse of children. One of them was from one of my favourite television programs when I was younger, and another one was somebody that my dad and I used to listen to a lot. And I find it really hard to, I mean, normally I can pick them. I mean, these days I can usually pick somebody who's a little bit of a concern quite rapidly. I don't see it in these people, and that, it makes you doubt your ability to spot that, especially when you have a young daughter. That she doesn't often go out of my sight, especially not with people who are male. Not that all men do that, I know that. I have a partner who would never do that. But it's another one of those things that's really hard to control. I don't put it on my daughter. She's not fearful. She is the most amazing little girl who is calm and confident a lot of the time, and she doesn't have those kind of fears. She doesn't fear strange men or anything. She's cautious, but she's not terrified or anything. So I've been very careful not to put that onto her. Doesn't mean I don't feel it, and I'm probably very good at hiding it. It's something you learn to do. It's like the jokey face thing I put on. It's something I've learned to do to deal with how I feel internally. So with all the stuff that's in the media and the way I've been feeling, and I haven't been managing quite as well as I would like to have had, and realise I'm kind of rambling in several different tangents, which is another thing that I really hate now, is my mind doesn't track nicely like it used to. But yeah, it's been really kind of difficult because I want to be myself again. Only I know that even if I get better, which really is more about learning to manage my condition than anything else, I'm never going to be the same. And I find that really hard to accept, because I want to be me again. I want to feel like me again. And I guess I'm not quite ready to accept that there's a new me, because that's not who I want to be. I want to be the old me. And that old me is still there in some ways. She's the one who's screaming about how things are not fair and how unfair life is. And, you know, one of the things I look at is that my father, who effectively disowned me before he died, and my brothers, and I found out after my parents had divorced, quite a while after my parents had divorced, I found out that he'd wanted my brothers to go live with him and me to live with my mum, which kind of made me feel really unwanted. And I'd always looked up to my dad. I idolised my dad. And I also found out that he had wanted my mum to have an abortion when she got pregnant with me, because she'd had a couple of miscarriages. They already had 2 children. He didn't want any more. But Mum thought I was a girl, so she wasn't going to let that happen. Thanks, Mum. So my father got ill quite a number of years ago, and he died in 2001. In fact, he died on the 13th of September 2001. Yes, 2 days after 9/11. And his illness meant that he didn't have any concept of what was going on around him. He lost his mind, effectively. He had Parkinson's and a dementia called Lewy bodies dementia. So he lost all knowledge of what was going around him, and so the pain that he had caused, it wasn't like at the end he could apologise for that or there be any kind of real closure on that, because he didn't even know I was there when I said goodbye to him. So it's kind of, that kind of bites at me, is that there was no real closure. There was no way for him to take into account the way he'd ended up making me feel as a child. And my abuser has a neurological disorder as well, which means that he's not with it. He has, I think he has a form of dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, which has meant that his mind doesn't work properly. So he gets to forget. I don't get to forget. he gets to keep his freedom and not remember what he did, and not have to worry about how it affects other people, whereas I have to live with it every day. And then you get people like my grandfather, who was the most amazing man I've ever met. He was kind and compassionate and trustworthy and loyal. He was all the things you want in a man. And his mind stayed sharp until the day he died, yet his body failed him. He had to live with the agony of being able to feel everything that happened to him and be aware of everything that happened to him and the way his body was breaking down, and have to live it all and remember it all and feel it all. So he was in agony for a lot of the last couple of years of his life. And yet the people who acted like shit in their lives get the freedom of not feeling it, not feeling the end, not feeling the pain and the anguish and any of that stuff. It's like they got a free ride. See, that's how my mind works, is that that's not fair. It's not fair that good people should have to suffer the way my grandfather suffered, whilst assholes, for want of a better word, get to be blissfully unaware of all of that stuff. I mean, maybe they're not blissfully unaware, but that's how it feels to me. And this is the thing I've been struggling with, is that there's so much in life that is not fair to people. And I know we live in a society where we try to be fair to young people all the time. You know, everybody wins a prize. But life's not like that. Life's not fair. Bad shit happens to people who don't deserve it. Good shit happens to people who don't deserve it. So what kind of message are we sending the generations? We make them believe until they're an adult that everybody gets a prize. That every time you do something good, you get something good. No, that's not how it is. And these thought processes have a really negative impact on my mental health because of where I come from and the things that I've experienced and the things that I've seen. And as a result, I've been in a really shitty place in my head, and I'm starting to come slightly better now, probably because I've talked about it a lot more, and I've, you know, managed to get a lot of it out and sort of come to terms. Like, I can actually talk about it without bursting into tears, which is massive progress from where I was probably 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So yeah, that probably wasn't all that interesting for anybody else, but you know, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to know, and I think it's an appropriate question to answer, I will certainly try to do so. I really want to help other people who are going through what I'm going through, and in some ways it really helps my recovery to know that I'm reaching out to other people and helping other people out. So yeah, so that is kind of my update on where I am. I'm making steps forward and trying to be kind to myself and take things one step at a time. So yeah, so I'll probably do some more vlog type things like this over the coming weeks, see how I'm going. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, if you managed to watch all of this, thanks, and I'll see you next time. So yeah.